Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the easiest to propagate aroids. Now, assuming we're doing water propagation with all of these, we're going to talk about the quickest and fastest to root plants in the Araceae family. If you've seen the short from last week, we talked about propagating these Syngoniums in water with an air stone, and an air pump is a pretty straightforward method. We're going to make that assumption across all these aroids that we're going to use that method. Now, I have a variety of Syngoniums inside of this water propagation. It's been about a week, and we just have wildly successful results across the board with Syngonium. I haven't changed the water or added a sterilizer, so that would actually improve the results here. So with that, we can say just about any Syngonium podophyllum. Also, the Syngonium chiapense is really easy to propagate. This mojito is also another example of a fast to root plant. You can already see its aerial roots coming out here. And keep in mind, most of these don't have huge amounts of variegation. There is a correlation I've found between high variegation and slow to root. It makes total sense that the plant won't be able to absorb as much light and develop roots with that light. On all the Musa tissue culture I have done, the more white a plant has, the lower the root development is on that tissue culture. So same sort of thing is happening on these easy to root plants. They will typically be mostly green with some variegation. The main thing you're going to be finding on these easy to propagate plants are the aerial roots. Most of these plants are epiphytes, so it's in their nature to climb up trees. So they're going to put out these aerial roots, and that's going to be the common factor between all of these easy to root plants. If they kind of start rooting out into a humid environment, that's what you want to take advantage of and cut off and stick into water, or sometimes straight into aroid mix if the adventitious roots or aerial roots are large enough. So this Epipremnum or Pothos aureum Jasenia is a great candidate for taking water propagation. Obviously, most of us know Pothos is a very good candidate for it, but this aureum is no exception. She does really great in water propagation and roots very quickly. Also, the common thread with all these plants is that they're going to be able to grow really fast. And a great example of that is the Philodendron Paraiso Verde. This plant is very vigorous and has a ton of aerial roots, as you can see here driving down into the leca. This plant pretty much just roots itself down into the pot, and it makes it really easy to propagate. Many times I will just cut off an arm of it, kind of uproot it, and then just transplant it directly into aroid mix without going into water at all. This is one of my favorite philodendrons, Philodendron Burle Marx variegata. I think that's how you say it.
Coberto Burle Marx.
This one puts out great aerial roots and usually sticks them right down into the aroid mix. So I'll usually be able to sever off a part of the plant that's already rooting down into the aroid mix and makes it a really safe bet cutting. And we've also got this beauty here. This is a Philodendron Jose Buono, and this usually puts out these massive aerial roots that kind of become like woody, but I'll usually wrap something around or put a pot of aroid mix kind of near that root and kind of gently mist it, and that root will tap into it and root into it. So I'll have essentially a new cutting before that plant is even severed off the mother plant. Similarly, I'll let the roots become about 3 to 4 inches long off of the mother plant, and then I'll sever off that top cutting and stick it directly into aroid mix in a high humidity chamber so that this plant has more focus on rooting instead of producing leaves. That's also why we give plants high humidity when we're propagating, is because we want the plant to focus on developing roots and limit transpiration. And also when it opens its pores to transpire, it sucks in more humid air and more water through its leaves because it has no roots yet. Philodendron domesticum variegata, even the variegation on here keeps it as an easy to propagate plant, easy to grow, pretty vigorous, maybe not as vigorous as a Syngonium or an adansonii. You see the roots coming out of there at the side of the node. Also, although this is a very cheap plant and not that popular, Philodendron camposportoanum, or however the hell you say that, this plant is really easy to propagate, grows very fast, very vigorous, but again, that price is going to be on the lower side because of how easy it is to propagate. Of the Monsteras, Monstera standleyana acts like this also. This branch was growing across another pot in my tray, and it started rooting down into the other pot, and I actually just had to lift it up. So that speaks to how easily this plant propagates. And if plants are having more of a challenge to propagate, such as Monstera Peru, I've never really had a lot of success propagating that plant for whatever whatever reason, I'll typically do the air layering method just to be safe that it starts rooting before I sever this plant from the mother plant. As we all know, Monstera adansonii is a really easy to root plant. In the water, in aroid mix, it just puts out a little adventitious root there. You'll cut that off and then you'll stick it into a cup of water, and sometimes if it's long enough, maybe an inch or so and has some branching ideally, you can stick it directly into aroid mix. Many times I'll put it into water with a bubbler for a few days and then pop it right into aroid mix once I see some root branching going on. Also another adansonii, this is the Thai mint Monstera adansonii. It's got some good variegation, and this one also is easy to root. It's a little bit different than the Monstera Albo adansonii. I don't have that plant on this list, and that is for a good reason, because that higher level of variegation does make it more challenging to root. And keep that in mind when we're looking at these different plants. The thing they have in common is they're quick to propagate, they're quick to grow, and also that price is going to be a bit lower. People always ask, why is a plant more expensive? It's harder to propagate. So things like strawberry shake, even pink princess can be tough to propagate relative to these types of plants. To finish up the Monsteras, actually this is Monstera lechleriana. It is the unvariegated version from what I can tell, at least this plant is. And this plant is really easy to root. Again, you see that aerial root coming out there, clip it off and stick it into water. If you guys learned something new today, please consider subscribing to the channel and or liking the video. It helps us out a lot. And we'll be announcing the giveaway soon here. It should be early next week. Thank you guys so much for the 10,000 subscribers. It's been a really cool 3 to 4 years here on YouTube. It's taken us a while to get here, but we're really taking off now. Thank you again for the support, and thank you for coming out to the Albo shows or purchasing things off the website. It really means a lot.